Our story begins at dusk, in a village in Paraguay in 1980. The whole tribe is gathered around a bonfire, watching a young girl holding a bow and arrow. This girl is our protagonist, Hela. She looks at the target and it seems to dance before her. She looks again, clearly unsure, when an elderly woman approaches. She calms Hela and gives her a hairband, saying it will give her confidence, and that she doesn't need to worry, because she knows she has trained a lot. Hela thanks her for the hairband and says that thanks to it, she will have courage. The woman, who is her grandmother, smiles and says she's sure Hela is not a scared little girl. While the two share a warm moment, a man sitting nearby watching begins to mock Hela. "You're trembling. I bet this piece of pork here that you won't be able to hit the target," says the man, laughing. But Hela doesn't seem too shaken by the comment. She pulls the arrow, aims confidently, and shoots straight into the center of the target. She looks at what she just did, extremely happy, and the man is left in disbelief. She then turns to him, pointing and saying, "Ha! That pork is mine, Uncle Marcos." The other villagers mock Marcos for losing to a child. Marcos defends himself, saying she's the chief's granddaughter. It's in the blood. Meanwhile, a shy boy watches all of this. Uncle Marcos puts his hand on the boy's hair, his son named Rodrigo, and encourages him to honor his father and shoot an arrow too. But Rodrigo doesn't seem very confident about it, and he seems afraid of the sharp arrow. His father tries to encourage him, giving him a piece of pork meat to make him stronger. At that moment, Marcos's wife approaches and scolds him for drinking too much, suggesting he should stop with the beer. Unlike Marcos, she has a serious and cold expression. The festivities continue. Hela's mother approaches the bonfire and prays to the gods, asking them to watch over her daughter. The camera pulls away from the village, and from afar we realize that this was a celebration for Hela's birthday, where everyone wishes her a happy birthday. Later that same day, Hela and her grandmother talk a bit. Hela is very excited now that her mother has officially introduced her to the gods. She asks her grandmother if that means she is now an adult. Her grandmother, with a warm smile, looks at her and says that between 9 and 10 years old, there's not much difference, that she should be patient. Simply think of it as a birthday and enjoy the moment. Anxious Hela doesn't like that answer much. She wants to become an adult soon so she can become a great chief like her grandmother. Her grandmother is a bit surprised to hear that her granddaughter wants to be a chief. With a nostalgic look, Abuela tells her that one day, when she's strong and big enough to protect the tribe, she's sure Hela will be a great chief. Excited by that, Hela promises to practice a lot so she can become a good chief in the future. The villagers of the town give her a flower crown as a birthday present. The party continues with the village children having fun and dancing under the gaze of a goddess. Time passes. Exactly 10 years. We see a village that's more deserted, abandoned, with decaying houses. Time has not been kind to the tribe. We hear someone saying goodbye to Hela, and she, now much older, with a sad look, watches another villager leave the village. She looks like she's about to cry, but turns away, thoughtful, and goes back to her tasks. A few days later, we see Hela hiding behind a bush with a bow in her hands. She imitates the sound of an animal, which attracts 2 boars. She aims at the boars, and just as she's about to shoot, a bird flies toward her and disrupts her. She falls backwards, confused by what just happened. The little bird lands on her head, and a man who has just arrived grabs the bird, saying, "Pora always finds a new way to surprise you, doesn't she?" Hela looks back and sees Rodri, the shy boy from her birthday, now a grown and more confident man. She seems surprised and happy to see him again. She holds his hand and asks if he came back from the city. He, a bit embarrassed, says yes. Thinking Rodri had, like the others, fallen in love with the city, she's surprised and relieved to see him back. Rodrigo, noticing her surprise, says he doesn't necessarily like the city. He only stayed as long as he needed to sort out a few things. But now he says he's back and doesn't intend to leave again. Changing the subject, he asks if he missed the farewell of the last family from the tribe heading to the city. Hela, with a slightly sad look, replies that, yes, if he had come back a little earlier, he would have seen another family leave for the city. Rodrigo tries to show Hela the positive sides of the city, saying the city has interesting places, books, technology, mobile phones, and also many people who were once part of the tribe, the people who were part of their big family in the past. He also casually mentions that his uncle asked if he wanted to stay in the city to study. Extremely worried, Hela looks at Rodri like she might lose him at any moment when he says that. Rodri notices her worry and assures her he doesn't want to abandon her. He just thought maybe it would be good for both of them if they lived in the city. Angry with Rodrigo's suggestion, Hela insists that she is the chief of the tribe and cannot abandon the village. The tribe was a gift from her grandmother to her, and it is her duty to continue her abuela's legacy. She can't let it die. Rodrigo sadly agrees with Hela, saying he knows that, but it's clear that deep down he wishes she would leave with him. Realizing this, Hela looks at Rodri with a heavy heart. Trying to ease the tense moment, Hella remembers that in the past, Rodri used to like cooking in the tribe's traditional stove, and she asks if he still likes it, because she plans to rebuild things in the village, and she's thinking of starting with the stove. Over time, she's sure the tribe will become even better than the city. Rodri strokes Hela's head, assuring her that, in his view, the tribe is already better than the city, because she is the chief, because she's there. Pora, the bird that had interrupted Hela earlier, is actually a messenger bird. The bird pecks Rodri's hand, which is still holding hers, making him let go. Hela picks it up to check if Pora brought a message, but she sees there's none. Worried, Rodrigo asks Hela about the replies, but she only responds negatively. Smiling awkwardly, Hela says the lack of responses is probably because Pora must have gotten lost on the way to deliver the messages. Pora, clearly offended, jumps onto Hela's face again. Trying to cheer her up, Rodrigo suggests they try making a phone call instead of sending messages through a carrier bird. He brought some money from the city, and they can use it to make a call. Liking the idea, Hela agrees, and the two head out to make the phone call while chatting about Pora's recent behavior. A hand pulls both of them by the shirt. The hand belongs to Marcos, Rodrigo's father, who looks annoyed, asking where the two are going. Calmly, Rodri replies that they're going to make a few calls. Marcos gets even more irritated at the response, worried as he reminds them that it's already getting dark, which is dangerous, since they could be kidnapped by the Jazijatere, a forest monster that abducts children. Hela doesn't seem too worried about that. She says that's just a legend, it's not real, and they're not children anymore. Marcos scolds Hela with a flick on the head and takes them both back to the village, muttering along the way how messed up kids are these days. Meanwhile, Hela and Rodri exchange glances, secretly agreeing to sneak out later to make the call. A little later, they meet at the edge of the forest. Hela asks Rodri if Marcos is already asleep, and Rodri confirms that he always dozes off a bit early. He's a nap lover. The two walk into the forest and walk for a few minutes until they get close to the entrance of a cave. Worried, Hela questions the path and where they're going, because this doesn't seem like the right way. But Rodri says he's just taking a shortcut, that it's all good. Surprised, she keeps following Rodri without asking more. In silence, something bothers Hela. She knows Rodrigo well, and from what she remembers, he was afraid of caves and tight spaces. She asks Rodri about it, but he says he's not afraid anymore, admitting that they're actually going this way because he wants to show her something. The two go into the dark cave, using a small flashlight to light the way. Rodri stretches out his hand to take Hela's, but hesitates out of embarrassment. Using the excuse that the path is getting darker, Rodrigo offers his hand to Hela so she can hold on to him and feel more comfortable. She accepts and holds Rodrigo's hand. Comfortable and a bit nostalgic with her dear friend right there. They walk for a while and she notices Rodri's hand is wet. Teasing, she says that if he's scared, they can go back to the entrance and take the long way around the cave. Seriously, he says he's not scared. It's just that this place makes him feel weird. A kind of monotony. It's strange but intense. Rodrigo keeps lost in thought, saying it's like time has stopped. Today, yesterday, and tomorrow all feel exactly the same. He feels like his friends are just living one day after the next, without caring about what comes next. That it sometimes feels suffocating. That there's a lack of energy, of excitement in things. Still lost in thought, Rodri says this cave makes him feel like day and night are the same thing, like time has frozen. Finding that conversation quite strange, Hela stops walking. She looks at Rodri with a slightly lost but hopeful look. "I wish time would stop," she says. "I wish time would stop when everyone was still here." At her response, he watches her surprised. Again, he insists he's not trying to leave all that behind. Without the courage to look Rodrigo in the eyes, Hela says she knows he's thought about leaving the tribe behind. Maybe that's why he brought her to a special place, to break the news in a less painful way. Rodrigo firmly denies it. No, stop getting all melancholic. That's not true, and that's not why we're here. He pulls something from his pocket. He lights a match and then lights a sparkler candle, handing it to Hela and saying how pretty the sparks are from that candle. He bought it in the city thinking about how much Hela would love it. That's actually called fireworks. He encourages his friend to move that small glowing piece of wood around. Following her friend's instructions, she moves it quickly and manages to make shapes as if drawing in the air. Hela is amazed, happy, satisfied with that. Rodrigo confirms he knew she'd like it. They both sit there for a while on the floor of the dark cave, drawing with those little fireworks. Hela gets nostalgic remembering when they were little and how beautiful the sky was back then. They remember the night they became friends and how their friendship got stronger with time. Agreeing, Hela admires the small flame of her sparkler dying out. Then suddenly something catches her attention on her hand. A drawing appears on her hand, lines and shapes in sea green and red, a strange symbol. Trying to understand how that got on her hand, Hela gets lost in thought. While she's lost in thought, Rodri calls her. Holding out a gift box, he smiles and wishes her a happy birthday. Hela had been so stressed and worried about things lately that she forgot it was her birthday. As she opens the box, Rodri explains that it's a Walkman and that it's something popular in the city right now. With it, she'll be able to listen to all sorts of different music. He puts the headphones on Hela's ears and turns on the Walkman, making the music play. Astonished, she asks Rodri how they managed to put music in such a tiny box and how she's hearing it inside her ears. The gift seems to have been a good choice, and that makes Rodrigo happy. He's certain of it when he looks at Hela and she thanks him with a warm smile. Surprised and charmed by his friend's beautiful smile, Rodri blushes. Still blushing, Rodri comments that now they're a lot older than before. They're adults now, and as an adult, maybe he could study farming and laws in the city. Hela doesn't let him finish the sentence, clearly upset as she asks if he's really saying he's leaving. Justifying that education is important and that the tribe will need it, Rodrigo tries to reason with his friend. But firmly, Hela rejects the idea, asking why he thinks he doesn't already have everything he needs in the tribe. "I'm just saying we could use what I learned from studying to help the tribe," Rodri replies, pushing back against her question. But Hela is offended, hurt, and sad with her friend. She says that, in truth, what he's saying is that he wants to leave to study, and that means he's going to want to leave no matter what. Frustrated and realizing what he truly wants, Rodrigo admits that maybe that is what he meant, but not like that. He goes back to emphasizing that they're adults now, and extremely embarrassed, he explains that adults get married. "You're the chief, aren't you?" Rodri asks. Hela, not understanding what's happening or where he's going with it, answers yes. Extremely embarrassed, Rodri says maybe they could share the responsibility of leading the tribe through marriage. He says the idea is actually that they get married, live together in the city while he studies, and then return to the village to rebuild it. After all, every time he thinks about the future, she's in it. Hela is caught off guard by that idea and all that information. A wild mix of emotions. Rodrigo doesn't let her respond and reminds her of the night she saved him again, and that he wants to do the same for her, make her happy. Hela is in shock, surprised, and deep in thought, but she's pulled from her thoughts by a whistle. She looks at Rodrigo, wondering if he's hearing it too, but she sees Rodrigo walking strangely, almost automatically, deeper into the cave. While the whistling continues, glowing orbs of light start to light up inside that cave. Hypnotized by the beauty of the lights, Hela's vision begins to blur until she faints. With someone knocking at her door, Hela wakes up startled. She's in her room, trying to understand what's happening, but the knocks sound anxious. A familiar voice shouts her name. When she opens the door, she finds Marcos, Rodrigo's father, desperate because he can't find his son. The news hits like a stab. Everything becomes more and more confusing. Rodri disappeared? Hela wonders. At that moment, a necklace falls from Hela's neck. It's the necklace Rodrigo was wearing. Seeing that object, Hela seems to remember something. First, the lights in the cave that kept leading them somewhere. Then a cry for help and piercing green eyes in darkness. Hela is snapped out of her flashback by Marcos shaking her and asking where Rodrigo is. Despair takes over Hela's mind. If Rodrigo is gone, her world will collapse. Golden hair, mysterious blue eyes, a little boy with a magic staff. He walks among us after sunset. He looks for children who refuse to go to sleep, hypnotizing them with a beautiful whistled melody. Good children fall asleep quickly and can't hear the whistle, but those who are awake end up moving involuntarily, dancing and following the enchanting music. They go to the unknown against their will, and after that, they will never see their family and friends again, for their final fate is to be devoured by the demonic brothers of Hasihatere. Abuela is telling this story to the children of the tribe 10 years ago around a bonfire, warning them to be careful and always go to sleep on time, because if they don't, they will be enchanted by JC Jatere, the boy born from the moon. Disbelieving her grandmother's story, Hera says she hates sleeping and that even so, Chelsea Hatere has never shown up for her. All the children of the tribe are there listening to Abuela's stories when the moment is interrupted by Marcos, who calls for the village chief, saying he needs to take his son home early. Rodrigo, hearing his father's conversation with the chief, stands up and sneaks out through the back. Hela, confused by what happened, follows him. He realizes he's being followed and starts to run while Hela chases after him, asking why he's running. He tells her to go away, to stop following him, but she keeps going after him, not understanding why he's running away when his father is looking for him. From Rodri's choked voice, Hela realizes he's crying. Embarrassed that his friend found out, Rodri covers his head with the cloak he's wearing. Trying to cheer him up, she says that despite his parents fighting, his mother is back, and that's what matters. Besides, the village chief will organize a big party for Rodri's 10th birthday. Outraged, he shouts that he doesn't care about his parents, that he doesn't care about his 10-year coming-of-age party, and he speeds up, asking her to leave. But worried, Hela follows him, warning him that he shouldn't be entering the forest. She finally catches up to him and grabs the cloak covering his head. When she pulls it off, she finds Rodrigo crying blood, his eyes red. At first, this startles her, but she tries to regain her composure quickly. Rodrigo looks bitterly at Hela. Enraged, he yells that he told her to leave him alone, that he's a monster. Unshaken, Hela hugs him and says she's going to take him to her grandmother and they'll find a doctor and fix all this. Trying to push her away, he explains that there's no cure for it and begs her to let him go, but she refuses and hugs him tighter. Their little struggle causes them to lose balance and fall. Lying on the ground, Hera starts to apologize to Rodri, but he interrupts her, starting to talk about the psychological pain all of this causes him. He explains that his parents know this happens and always hide him when it does. He says maybe that's why his mother keeps leaving. Worried for her friend, Hera looks for a way to comfort him. She looks at her hands stained with the blood of Rodrigo's tears and gets an idea. She smears her hand on her face and Rodrigo watches, confused. She shows the red streaks of blood she made on her face, smiling, saying that on her own coming-of-age day, on her 10th birthday, her mother did something similar to her face. And that actually, Rodri isn't cursed. He's blessed to have something like that naturally. Disbelieving, Rodri doesn't seem to find any sense in what she's saying, but she insists, saying it makes sense. And she even looks prettier that way, doesn't she? Embarrassed by the situation, Rodri teases Hela a bit, messing up her face and saying no. The two fall silent for a few minutes, until Hera says to Rodri that he's not a monster. And even if he were a monster, she'd still be his friend. Rodrigo asks her, "Are you trying to make me feel better or worse?" Slightly irritated, she says she's got loads of non-human friends. For example, Pora, a bird that's her friend. So what's wrong with being his friend, regardless of whether he's a monster or not? Rodrigo cracks a smile, and that cheers Hera up. Hela states that she and Pora will always be Rodrigo's friends, reassuring him that his secret will be safe with her, but that he doesn't need to hide from her like he does with the other children in the village. With her, he can be himself. Thoughtful and relieved, Rodrigo says that Hela is a strange person, and that he has never met anyone like her. Hela reminds Rodri that she will be the village chief one day. And as a good chief, she must welcome every member of the tribe. The heated conversation between the two children is interrupted by shooting stars appearing in the sky. Celebrating, Hela raises her hands toward the heavens, certain that this is the gods' way of celebrating the new friendship forming. Hopeful, looking at the falling stars, Rodrigo wishes out loud that everything Hela said is true. Reaffirming her friend's wish, Hela tells him not to worry, that it may sound silly now, but it will become real. And no matter what happens, she will help him. Rodrigo lets out a relieved laugh, which warms Hela's heart and gives her the certainty that she did a good job. The two continue watching the starry sky, and our flashback of the moment Hela and Rodrigo became friends comes to an end. In a clearing inside the cave, we see a sturdy tree with yellowing leaves, a man kneeling near the roots, and a woman in a red cloak approaching. The woman is Hela, and she wonders mentally how many days Rodrigo has been missing. She carries a bag with some food, approaches the man, and comments that the police couldn't find Rodrigo in the surrounding areas, but said they would expand the search. We see that the kneeling man is actually Marcos, who has a desolate look in his eyes. Hela gets closer, concerned, placing the bag near him and advising him to rest a bit, since he has been searching for Rodrigo day and night. Marcos finally reacts to Hela's words, lifts his head, and blames himself for not having gone with Rodrigo to the city. He confesses that the only reason he stayed in the village was the chance that his wife, Koi, might return. But today he believes that was a mistake. After all, it's been 9 years since the last time he saw her. Seeing Marcos' sadness, Hela tries to comfort him by saying that, in truth, it's her fault. Rodrigo had said that the reason he came back was her. Besides, she was with him when he disappeared. Tears roll down her cheeks as she apologizes to Marcos while thinking about it. Marcos strokes her hair and comforts her, saying no, it's not her fault. Looking at Marcos, Hela asks if he believed what she described happened. About the magical lights, the whistling. Probably not, because even for her, who lived it, it's hard to believe. Hearing this, Marcos responds that even though he has told the story of JC Jatere countless times, he never believed in the legends, at least not while his wife was with him. But unlike him, Koi, his wife, believed all those legends and creatures were real. For her, everything was real. She even believed she was cursed. Her family was cursed. And every full moon, she shed tears of blood. And that suffering, that curse, was passed from one generation to another, from mother to child, and she couldn't bear the idea that Rodrigo had inherited that curse. That's why she would vanish and leave the house to find answers. Hela, hearing that, says that Rodri never knew the real reason his mother left. He didn't know because Koi never allowed him to be told. She didn't want to believe that he was cursed or that he was a curse. Hela realizes that after Koi disappeared, Rodrigo never cried blood again. Marcos sadly confirms Hela's conclusion, saying he felt torn because he was happy his son could be normal, but he wanted his wife back, wanted her to see their son happy, their son normal, and that wish to see her again, to be a complete family again, ended up making him wait for Koi, hoping she would return. If she only knew she wasn't cursed. But now, with Rodrigo missing, what would he say to her? That he wasn't able to protect his own son? Hela feels like crying again, but holds back because remembering and thinking about all of that made Marcos finally pass out from exhaustion. While carrying the unconscious Marcos back home, Hela can't stop blaming herself. She believes she destroyed her best friend's family, especially because she didn't let him move to the city. Placing Marcos safely in his house, thoughtful, she returns to her own home. Upon arriving, she looks at the portrait of her late grandmother, thinking that maybe her father was right. Maybe she should have gone to the city, abandoned the idea of becoming the tribe's leader. The fact that she doesn't have the power to protect the tribe seems to be becoming a reality. Wrapped in these bitter thoughts, Hela hears someone knocking on her door. Startled, she approaches the door and asks who it is. "Hela, it's me, Rodrigo," the voice behind the door replies. Flustered and surprised, she runs to open the door, but when she puts her hand on the handle, she hesitates. She feels a warmth in her hand, so she looks at her palm and sees that same mark again, the one that appeared when she was in the cave. A soft whistling sound comes from behind the still-closed door. Scared and suspecting what that might be, she questions, "Rodri doesn't know how to whistle?" The mark on her hand pulses as the knocks on the door become more violent. The voice behind the door changes tone, inviting her to come out if she wants to see Rodrigo again. Terrified and finally understanding what's happening, as surreal as it is, her legs give out and she falls to the floor. Dark thoughts creep into her mind. Is he going to kidnap me too? No, I need to run. That encounter she had with her grandmother on her 10th birthday comes to mind. Her grandmother saying she'd be a good leader when she grew up. That gives Hela the energy she needs to make a decision. She quickly gets up, grabs her bow and a knife. Just as she's about to leave, she remembers that JC uses whistling to hypnotize. And what if he hypnotizes her again? Looking back, she remembers the Walkman she got as a gift from Rodri. She grabs the Walkman, believing it'll help her avoid being hypnotized, and heads out to face the unknown. She opens the door hesitantly, and looking outside, everything seems calm. Trying to figure out where JC is, she begins to walk. With the headphones in her ears, listening to the Walkman's music, she sees those lights again, those glowing orbs she saw a few nights ago in the cave. Even though she doesn't know where the lights are leading, she follows where they guide her. Walking away from the village, she turns around and sees her beloved village in the distance, silently promising she'll return with Rodrigo and reunite his family. Then she continues walking, determined, following the glowing orbs, going deeper into the forest. She's scared, but tries not to show it, alert to everything around her. Planning in her mind how to destroy that creature when she finds it, she realizes the path the lights are showing leads to a place she knows. The creature must be on the ancestral tree. Hela concludes as she realizes where she's going, determined not to lose this fight and to hunt JC. With a fresh plan in mind, she runs toward the ancestral tree, taking an alternate path instead of the one shown by the lights. With her knife, she slices one of the glowing orbs in half as she runs. Black tentacles come out from the middle of that split orb. That worries Hela a little. She has no idea what any of this means. Climbing a small hill, something at the top shines intensely. The glow comes from the clearing of the cave where the ancestral tree stands. Hela approaches the upper edge of the clearing. Down below, she sees the ancestral tree surrounded by the orbs of light. The creature must be waiting here, Hela thought as she readied her arrow and aimed toward the base of the tree. Standing on the roots of the ancestral tree, a man with golden hair and a staff in his hand seems to be waiting for someone. The beauty of that man confuses Hela. Is it really the creature? Or is it a person? Before she can finish the thought, the man turns to Hela and his blue eyes seem to pierce her soul. Startled, she fires the arrow by accident in the direction she was aiming. The arrow hits the man's shoulder. Annoyed, he keeps looking toward Hela as he does something with his hands. Right after, a blue-green magical disc flies quickly toward Hela. The disc, clearly summoned by that man, hits the edge of the clearing near Hela, destroying the spot where she was standing and causing her to fall. Plummeting from a considerable height, Hela begins to fall into the clearing. Desperate and helpless, waiting only for the impact to hit her. Hela is surprised when the man saves her, catching her in his arms like a princess. She then looks at him more closely. Golden hair, mysterious blue eyes, and a magical staff. Looking calmly at the man, she's certain he is JC Jatere. Still in disbelief at what she's seeing and the beauty of that man, she accidentally says his name aloud. JC Jatere. With an indifferent look, JC pulls the headphones from Hela's ear. Because of this, Hela realizes that the arrow really did hit JC's shoulder, but he isn't bleeding and doesn't seem bothered by the arrow at all. In a desperate act, Hella grabs her knife and stabs him in the chest, but JC doesn't seem to feel it, and the cut doesn't bleed. He lets go of Hella, allowing her to fall to the ground, then pulls out the arrow stuck in his shoulder. Noticing the confusion in the human's eyes, he reveals that he cannot be harmed by humans. Therefore, she shouldn't waste time trying to kill him. Stunned by this fact, she is sure he is a monster. Afraid and needing to rethink her entire attack plan, she tries to run away from JC, but she can't get far, as JC blocks her path. He corners her within some kind of barrier and approaches her with an almost bored look. "Are you afraid of me?" he says, looking into Hella's eyes. Shaking with fear, Hella doesn't need to answer. JC knows she's terrified. Ignoring the trembling human before him, JC proposes a deal. He will bring Rodrigo back if she helps him with something. Upon hearing her friend's name, Hella seems to finally react. "A deal? But where is he?" she asks. But JC doesn't give her details. He only says he'll take her to the place where Rodrigo is imprisoned as soon as she agrees to the terms of the deal. But this doesn't convince her. How does she know he's really telling the truth? After all, wasn't he the one who kidnapped Rodrigo and tried to hypnotize her? How can she trust someone like that? In contrast to Hila's arguments, JC reminds her that she did something very similar when she mimicked the sounds of boars to lure and then hunt them. "I don't see how that's much different from what I did," concludes JC. But his words only terrify Hila even more. How long has this man been planning this? How long has he been watching us? There must be a way to kill him, Hela thinks. Despite JC's valid argument, Hela can't trust him. She tries to convince him she'll accept the deal if he shows Rodrigo is alive and lets him go. JC doesn't like this counter-proposal. He seems to hold a deep grudge against humans, and he knows the possibility of being betrayed is high. Offended by Hila's insinuation, he retorts, he, a demigod, knows that his word holds great value. A pact with a demigod is very different from the fragile promises humans make to one another. JC reveals that the favor he needs from her is to open a gate for him. Despite JC's arguments, she doesn't trust him and needs some kind of guarantee. After all, he could just kill her as soon as she opens the gate, and she's also not sure that Rodri is alive. "A blood bond will be made between us, that will be your guarantee," says JC. "This contract will be engraved in your heart until I fulfill it." A contract with a demigod isn't something that can be broken without severe consequences. Now, for the contract to be made, she must visualize the desire and carve her name into JC's skin, he instructs. Hela hesitates, but grabs her knife and begins to carve her name into JC's arm. This time, unlike the others, JC's arm bleeds when she cuts his skin. With blood running down his arm, JC promises to bring the human Rodrigo back to this world as soon as Hela opens the gate. While he makes the vow, Hela believes this might be a chance to kill him and tries to stab him. But she is stopped by a JC who is irritated and disgusted by the predictable, despicable act of a human. He makes a sarcastic remark, saying she shouldn't worry about a demigod breaking a promise, since she can't even keep hers. "Fulfill your part of the deal," orders that beautiful man. Looking at her name carved into JC's arm, Hela can only believe that if he is bleeding at that moment, then it must mean there's a chance to destroy him. She just needs to be patient and wait for the right moment. With the pact sealed, JC moves his staff and a dark energy envelops the two of them. Hela feels chills from this energy surrounding them. Sinister shadows appear and begin to sing a bizarre song. A song whose lyrics tell what has just happened between them, and the shadows vibrate with the contract made. Amid this bizarre chanting, an unusual invitation is made. "Do you accept to follow me?" JC asks, looking at Hela. Hela is confused by JC's formality. "You will go to the land of Tao," he explains. "You must speak aloud and declare that you wish to continue of your own free will, because I cannot force you to enter." At that moment, Hela realizes something. "So that means Rodri followed you of his own free will? He agreed to enter?" she asks. JC nods and explains that if he could simply hypnotize humans to enter the land of Tao, why would he waste time talking to them? Despite all the facts in front of her, Hela doesn't seem to believe what comes out of JC's mouth. Everything he says sounds like a lie. JC presses Hela. "Say it, aloud. This is your only chance." Giving in, she says what JC instructed aloud. With that, the shadows stir wildly around them. Before entering, JC warns that Ao Ao is inside. Recalling the stories her grandmother used to tell, Hela asks if Ao Ao is the being that devours human flesh. JC confirms, but tells her not to worry, because Ao Ao won't be able to perceive her, as long as her connection to the land of Tao remains incomplete. Covering Hela's eyes with the hairband she was wearing, JC explains that vision is what makes that connection. If she keeps her eyes blindfolded, neither Ao Ao nor any of his children will be able to find her or even smell her, as long as she stays quiet and doesn't make much noise. Leaning in so his face is close to Hila's ear, JC orders her to call him by the name of his brother, Ao Ao. Trembling, Hela asks if JC will go with her, which surprises him and makes him ask if she really wants him to. She says that, well, She needs to open a gate, and it would be complicated if she didn't know where to go. Blindfolded, she wouldn't be able to tell where to go. Saying he will join her at the right moment, he orders again that she call for Ao Ao. Obeying him, Hela calls for Ao Ao, concentrating on his name and repeating it several times in her mind. She feels her body levitate, and even though blindfolded, she senses that the light of the place disappears, and she is surrounded by darkness. She was really transported to another world, another dimension. The environment becomes colder, and Hela begins to explore around her as best as she can, listening and feeling with her hands. The ceiling above her head seems to have a strange texture, and it's oddly low. Feeling the wind blowing, she starts heading toward where it's coming from, since she's probably in a cave, and if she follows the wind, she might find an exit. Crawling in the darkness in an unknown place, Hela remembers Rodri, and that gives her strength to carry on. She touches something soft and furry and pulls a bit of that fur. When she does, a monstrous growl is heard. Terrified, she wonders if she really is invisible to Ao Ao's eyes. Something starts sniffing around her, and soon after, a long howl is heard. Another howl, and then a loud crash. Something starts running toward Hela and hits her without even noticing she's there. Analyzing the howl more carefully, it sounds a lot like a warning howl from a hunter who found its prey. It's a howl to alert the others. But wait, wasn't she supposed to be invisible to them? Can Ao Ao's offspring see her? Did JC lie to her? But remembering how that creature passed by and accidentally hit her, it confirms they're not seeing her. But if they're not after her, then they must be hunting someone else. Rodri comes to Hela's mind, and that terrifies her. If they're hunting Rodrigo, she needs to do something. Maybe divert their attention. Still feeling the ground, she comes across something that feels like dry branches. So she starts crushing them, gathering them to form a wall of dry branches. Imitating the howl she heard earlier, she howls, trying to draw the creature's attention. Initially, it seems to work because she hears a step coming toward her, but just one. The others are still focused on something else, or at least it seems so. And what if that other thing they're focused on is Rodri? What if they've caught him? Hela panics again. At this moment, she remembers when her grandmother taught her more about hunting animals in packs. You need to be extra careful when dealing with packs, because they follow a hierarchy. Each of them has a specific role within the group, and that can make them a serious problem. Every pack will have a leader who gives the orders and organizes the group. Soldiers do the heavy lifting, while scouts gather information and identify potential prey. She clearly remembers her grandmother emphasizing the scouts in her lessons. After all, the information they bring to the pack can mean life or death for them, so you need to watch out for them. If a scout identifies her as easy prey, it'll lure the whole pack to her. Recalling the past, Hela realizes that the one she drew attention to is probably the scout. Making a reckless decision, she removes the blindfold from her eyes to give the scout a more tempting target than Rodrigo, completely ignoring the only instruction JC gave her. Now she can see, but she's also visible to the creatures of that world, since she completed her connection with the world of Tao. Upon removing the blindfold, she sees a strange creature, a quadruped animal, thin, looks like a dog or a large wolf, but with a skeletal face, and it has a human hand in its mouth. Seeing that scene, Hela hesitates for a brief moment, but quickly refocuses on her plan. She prepares a flaming arrow and aims in the creature's direction, hoping it's enough for the scout to do its job. The plan seems to work. The scout howls, calling the others. Right after, a loud crash is heard and several footsteps begin heading toward Hela. Several creatures, this time muscular with sharp teeth, begin running toward the scout's call. With the cold blood of a true huntress, Hela watches as the creatures approach her trap. When they get close enough to the wall of dry branches, Hela fires the fire arrow, igniting the dry branches and creating now a wall of fire. Some creatures catch fire and perish as they blindly cross that barrier, but it's not enough. There are many creatures and they seem hungry for prey and keep advancing toward Hela. Now, thinking only about her survival, Hela looks around, searching for a high place where the creatures can't reach her. She shoots an arrow with a rope toward the top of a giant mushroom above and starts climbing. But the creatures show themselves to be extremely determined. They keep chasing Hela, even the ones with parts of their bodies in flames. One of the creatures manages to grab a piece of Hela's clothing with its teeth and pulls her forcefully downward. That throws Hela off balance, and she begins to fall toward those hungry and ravenous beasts. But before the creatures can touch Hela, JC appears and saves her again. Hela looks surprised at JC. She didn't expect that from him. JC notices the surprise, but before he can say anything, the creatures there begin to howl again. This time, a different howl. A pink mist comes out of their mouths, giving form to a creature, the true Ao Ao. Ao Ao seems angry with his brother and demands that JC hand over the prey to those creatures, who are his children, because they are hungry. Sarcastically, JC retorts to his brother, claiming his sense of smell must not be in top shape. Since he should know Hela is not prey, she belongs to JC and carries his scent. Even more irritated upon hearing that, Ao demands that he bring another prey then. After all, that's his job and his children need to eat. He warns his brother that their father has already forgiven JC once and it probably won't happen a second time. Smiling sarcastically at his brother, JC retorts, "I've always been a naughty, disobedient child." "No, my brother, you're not naughty. You're a fool for trusting another human again?" responds Ao. "Hand over the girl so my children can eat her," he demands. Amidst this conversation, Hella seems to understand where JC's prejudice toward humans comes from. The pink mist stirs and demands that JC accept the task given to him by their father. After all, he was born for this. While the brothers argue, Hella notices the creatures are repositioning in a way to corner them. A chill runs down Hella's spine when Ao reveals he smells something good and similar to JC coming from Hella, a similar energy. And that means her flesh must give the energy of 1,000 humans to his children. Ao gives up on talking. After all, Hella is going to be a feast for his children. He orders the creatures to attack, feast on Hella, and bring JC's head as a gift. After the command, the pink mist begins to fade, but not without giving JC a warning, saying that he's doing it for his own good, since their father won't give such a light punishment next time JC fails. JC gets angry at his brother and feels underestimated, even by Ao. But he doesn't have time to process that information as the creatures begin to attack them. JC summons the magic circle again and uses it to make himself and Hella float above the creatures, high enough so that they have difficulty reaching them. The circle wobbles in the air as the creatures keep trying to reach them. A loud noise is heard, followed by a large landslide. JC looks up, startled, and then sees a new creature appear. It's bigger than the others, much bigger, surely capable of reaching them. The enormous creature lunges to devour them, and in a quick response, JC makes the circle disappear, causing the gigantic creature to miss its bite, but also making the two begin to fall toward the other creatures. They fall to the ground amidst all those creatures, and JC creates a barrier around them, still able to protect them from the relentless attacks of the surrounding beasts. Irritated, he's certain his brother has called all his children to attack them since there are so many creatures there. The combined attack of Ao's children on JC's barrier starts to create small cracks in it. JC is clearly exhausted, using all his strength to keep that barrier active. But the creature's consecutive attacks keep breaking the barrier more and more. It's clear it won't hold much longer. Jassy then decides to change strategy. He transforms the barrier into a collar that starts to strangle and hold down that enormous creature. Meanwhile, the massive creature, hungry for food, cries out for the human. JC knows that won't stop Ao's children for long. He looks toward Hella and orders her to climb to a high place for safety. But Hella is frozen in fear and doesn't react, trembling as she watches the enormous creature. The stimulus of being so close to its prey makes the massive creature thrash enough to break free from JC's collar. Freed, the creature charges toward Hela, and when it's about to reach her, JC throws himself between her and the creature. JC sees the terror in Hela's eyes and knows she won't be able to move. He then creates a magic circle and levitates Hela to a safe place. The creature doesn't give up. It tries to jump toward Hela, who is now at the top of a tree, safe for the moment. Hela watches JC down below, surrounded by those creatures. She doesn't understand why he's not protecting himself, why he hasn't created a protective circle around himself. Seeing the creatures attacking JC fiercely, Hela realizes that maybe JC is worn out and used the last of his power to ensure Hela's safety. But why would he do that? Hela wonders for a moment. While the smaller creatures are distracted attacking JC, the larger creature seems determined to reach Hela. Realizing this, Hela starts climbing higher. Hoping all of this is just a dream, she keeps fleeing from the creature. As she climbs, she sees something that might be an exit, a cave. Jumping toward the cave entrance, she enters the cave. Inside the cave, Hela seems to have a moment of peace, where she can breathe and process everything that's happened. Her whole body aches. Now that the adrenaline is fading, she finds it hard to breathe and feels intense pain. She starts thinking about JC's sacrifice. He used all that power to protect her, even if it meant sacrificing himself? No, he wouldn't go that far. After all, he didn't even bleed. He must be fine, she concludes. Hela's thoughts drift, and she remembers the human hand she saw in the flare's mouth. Wondering if that hand belonged to Rodrigo, she realizes that during the attack, she didn't see the flare at any moment. At that moment, a loud howl echoes inside the cave, drawing Hela's attention to what's happening below. That large creature seems to have given up on her for now, and is focused on where JC was. She can't see JC, but she sees a strong light emanating in the middle of those creatures. Did he activate the shield again? What should she do? Maybe if she follows the cave deeper, she could find the flare again, and who knows, better analyze the hand it was carrying to see if it belonged to Rodri. But what about JC? He seemed exhausted, even though his magic is strong. What's stranger is that she noticed JC didn't seem to attack the creatures. He only defended himself. Why didn't he fight back? Was it because they were his brother's children? But Ao Ao didn't seem to have a friendly relationship with JC. After all, the creatures were trying to kill him. Is that what he wants? Is JC Jatere planning to die? With her head full of assumptions and thoughts, Hella struggles to understand everything that's happening. What's going on in JC's mind? What is that place? Did JC ask Rodrigo to open the gate, but Rodrigo failed? Why did he go after her? Or why would he be trying to destroy himself? Hella decides everything is too confusing, too tangled for her to trust JC. Distrusting JC's promise, Hella decides she'll try to find the flare again and starts heading deeper into the cave. As she walks, Hella begins to remember her past, a conversation she had with her parents when they left for the city and tried to take her with them. She remembers how offended she was at the time. After all, she was there to protect the tribe. A promise. She had promised her abuela she would be a good chief. In her memory, Hella's father was very angry about this decision, angry about the things her mother told Hella, which made her cling to a dream that shouldn't exist. The old traditions were dead, and in the tribe, there was no one left but Hella, Rodrigo, and Marcos. There is no tribe without people, her father used to say in her memories. Angrily, Hella remembers blaming him for not accepting the role of chief when Abuela died. Maybe if he had become the chief, people wouldn't have left. But Hella's father seemed sure of his decisions. He said the world was changing and they needed to change with it, that small tribes like theirs were doomed to be left behind. But they needed to move forward. And now that Hella was an adult, if she wanted to stay, that was her decision, and she'd bear the consequences. Hella remembers that the fight between her and her father that day saddened her mother. She knew her family was moving to the city mainly because of her younger siblings. They needed a future and care, and in the city, they'd have all that. Hella's mother asked them not to make that farewell even more painful, and her father assured her that even if Hella decided to stay, she'd always have a place in the city with them if she ever chose to leave the tribe. The memory of her parents and her family leaving makes her recall every tribe member who left one by one. Even though she stayed silent during the goodbye, inside she was screaming, begging them to stay. Those sad memories, the certainty that now she is part of her tribe's past, begin to clear Hila's thoughts. Sitting on the cave floor, fighting her own fears, she decides not to give up. She needs to save what's left of her tribe, and she won't give up. And for him, she won't accept being just the past. Whatever Jay-Z is planning, she's going to save Rodrigo. And for that, she needs JC. Running back to where JC was, she sees him weakened, using a cracked magic circle to try to hold off the creatures. She starts observing everything around her, trying to come up with a plan to help JC. Spotting the first cave where she was when she arrived in the land of Tao, she sees the bodies of some creatures she took down and forms a plan in her mind. Returning to the tall tree, she remembers that when she attacked the beacon, all the other creatures came toward her, but the beacon ran in the opposite direction. If all of Ao Ao's children are distracted, attacking JC, maybe the beacon is alone. If she can make it back to that first cave, maybe she can find the beacon and attack him, and thus make the others follow the beacon. Determined not to abandon Rodrigo, the only person who didn't abandon her, she jumps toward the entrance of the first cave. She recovers an arrow that was stuck in the body of one of the fallen creatures. But as soon as she pulls out the arrow, she realizes that one creature was still alive, and it begins to move toward her. This child of Ao Ao is smaller than the others, but it doesn't look like the beacon. It's different. The creature begins to attack Hella as she dodges. In the distance, she hears JC's barrier breaking again. When she looks back to the ground, she sees more creatures approaching her. They begin to climb on top of each other. They are thinner, weaker than the others, but that doesn't mean they aren't just as dangerous. They're about to reach her when Hella decides to use the arrow she recovered to attack one of them, but realizes it will be in vain. After all, she only has one arrow, and that wouldn't be enough to destroy them all. Realizing the best decision is to count on JC's help, she curses him mentally while aiming her fire arrow at that giant creature attacking JC, shouting for JC not to die. After all, he has to keep his promise to her. While aiming at that creature, she notices the mark on her hand again, only this time her eyes glow. Hella is transported. Actually, only her mind is taken somewhere else, a kind of temple, and she seems to be surrounded by water. She hears something crying out for her not to die. Without understanding whose voice it is, Hella feels as if the water in that temple is flowing through her entire body. It's a strange energy. Her mind returns to her body, and Hella realizes she is still aiming at that huge creature. This time, she knows she has the strength to destroy it. The arrow on her bow begins to be surrounded by a greenish energy. She fires, and the arrow, now made of energy, hits the creature dead on, destroying it. Surprised by what Hella just did, JC looks in her direction and says, "Did we connect?" He doesn't understand how that is possible. JC doesn't have time to figure out how this connection happened, as Ao Ao's children keep attacking him. There are many creatures and they don't seem tired at all. Eventually, exhaustion begins to take its toll. Almost out of strength, JC still makes a sarcastic remark. "Why the hell did you have so many kids, my brother? Did you really need all that?" While the creatures keep attacking and JC tries to raise a barrier to defend himself, it's so weak it breaks with a simple scratch. JC knows it's only a matter of time before Ao's children defeat him. A heavy anguish in his chest torments JC, and Hela comes to his mind. He knows she's in danger. Meanwhile, Hela, still hanging from the tall tree, gasps in exhaustion. That arrow that destroyed the huge creature drained a lot of her energy. She also doesn't quite know how she managed to do that, and the mental exhaustion is visible. Looking at her trembling hand holding the bow, she notices that the symbol that was there has disappeared. One of the creatures charges at Hela, taking advantage of her distraction. Noticing that this creature is smaller than the others, Hela believes she can destroy it. Wielding her dagger, she attacks the creature, stabbing the blade into its mouth. The creature, in turn, closes its mouth, biting Hela's wrist. Now with her hand trapped in the beast's mouth, Hela is thrown down. Pulled downward by the creature, both begin to fall. JC for the first time seems extremely worried upon seeing that scene. His body seems to want to move on its own. As he runs toward Hela, an image of her as a child comes to his mind. JC starts running faster as he begs for Hela to survive. The possibility of Hela dying makes JC draw strength from somewhere. He attacks the creatures surrounding him, this time not only defending himself, but destroying them. With a quick movement of his hands, he sends a magical blade that cuts the creature, biting Hela in half. Almost at the same time, he summons a magical circle to soften Hela's fall. But destroying Ao's children comes at a high cost. Bluish-purple veins appear on JC's face as his body trembles and aches. He knows he shouldn't have done that, but it doesn't matter now, because he managed to save Hela. Dragging himself, he approaches Hela and starts trying to free her arm from the mouth of Ao's child. Despite being injured and whimpering in pain, it continues to grip Hela's arm tightly. More creatures arrive and begin trying to climb up to where JC and Hela are to attack them. JC knows that even though he regained some power, he won't be able to fight for much longer. They need to get to a safe place as quickly as possible. JC embraces Hela tenderly after finally freeing her from the bite. Whimpering, Hela questions why he didn't attack the creatures earlier. Despite the stressful situation and exhaustion, JC feels relieved to hear Hela complaining, and he seems happy to see that she's relying on him. The disc they're standing on starts to move away from Ao's offspring, but one of them grabs onto the edge of the disc. That pisses JC off, and he speeds up the disc until he gets close enough to a small notch on the wall of the place they're in. Holding Hela tightly in his arms, he jumps to the spot, disintegrating the disc right after and making the clinging creature fall. Temporarily free from Ao's children, JC tries to create a new disc to help them escape, but he doesn't have enough strength. He used too much of his power and is very close to his limit, carrying Hela in his arms, begging her to endure the pain and stay awake. He concentrates, thinking he needs to save Hela, begging his body to give him one last drop of power, just enough for them to get out of there. A poorly formed energy disc starts to take shape, but it seems too unstable for them to get on it. JC gets frustrated, but a huge crash grabs his attention. When he looks in the direction of the noise, he sees a massive creature, the one that was destroyed by Hela's arrow. The creature is standing, and even though it's extremely wounded, it begins to walk toward them, to attack them. JC, seeing the huge creature coming their way, clings to that malformed circle, which is just enough to lift them high enough for the massive creature to miss its attack. But the disc can't hold for long and soon disintegrates, causing JC and Hela to fall towards the children of Ao, falling onto the back of the enormous creature. The smaller creatures waste no time and begin to attack. JC tries to form a circle around the creature to repel it, but his power is already too weak and the circle disintegrates quickly. The creature is going to hit them, until Hela grabs her knife and strikes the creature, stopping the attack. Taking advantage of the moment, JC conjures a new disc, almost as weak as the last, but strong enough to take them to the entrance of a cave up high. JC, still holding Hela in his arms, runs into the cave. In the distance, the howling of Ao's children can be heard, an angry, hungry howl. After running for some time, far from the howls and deep inside the cave, JC collapses along with Hela. He wakes up to Hela's moans, whimpering in pain where she was bitten. JC tears a piece of his clothing and wraps it around the wound on Hela's arm. He begins to recall the recent events. The fact that Hela tried to save him really impressed him. She is human, and he knows humans can be extremely treacherous. That's why, to him, her action was extremely unexpected. But at the same time, he knows her decision made a lot of sense. After all, if he died, she wouldn't be able to save her friend. The memory of using his powers even while exhausted, the anguish he felt thinking Hela might die is strange. He normally wouldn't do that. Maybe the bond between them is stronger than he thought. JC looks at his hand, and that green and reddish symbol is visible again, the same one that appears on Hela's hand. It was far too reckless to act this way, especially over a human. He scolds himself. Hearing Hela's groan of pain, JC stands up but is stopped by Hela's trembling hand grabbing his clothes. Trying to calm her, he explains that he's just going to get her some water and will be right back, but she begs him to stay. She cries, complaining about the pain and burning in her arm. JC admits he has no idea how to heal humans, but he can try something that might cure her, or might make it even worse. He knows the possible consequences. If she's willing to try, he can do it. Consumed by pain, Hela says she'll accept anything to make the burning stop. JC knows he doesn't have much energy left, but he hopes he can muster enough to help Hela. He gently holds Hela's face as he brings his closer to hers, and without any hesitation, he kisses her. As they kiss, Hela feels as if that water is flowing through her body again. It's intense. She wants more of it. Without even thinking, Hela pulls JC's body and mouth closer, making the kiss extremely intense and surprising JC. The burning in Hela's arm lessens, which helps her calm down. JC, still extremely surprised, looks at Hela. Her eyes are red, but her face shows a mix of relief and pleasure. He places his hand over Hela's eyes, asking her to sleep. Hela hears a sweet melody and drifts off. In her dreams, she is surrounded by water. It's as if she were submerged. The water is carrying her away to a place strangely familiar to her. While Hela sleeps peacefully, JC removes his clothes and observes red and black veins on his chest, along with some wounds. He wonders how much longer he'll last like this. Looking at Hela, he knows she is his last chance. Will she be able to open the gate? She must be able to, after all. She would do anything for her friend. JC's head suddenly begins to throb. An unbearable headache strikes him. Will this headache disappear when it's all over? Will he finally see the end of all this? JC lies down, thoughtful, beside Hela. That pink mist appears again, floating over the two of them. The mist reminds JC that he must accept what he was born to do. He must accept his role. At that moment, Hela makes a small sound while sleeping, and JC, still lying beside her, gives a slight smile and praises her for being a great warrior. He only needed her to open the path for him, but he never expected her to have the courage to remove the bandana and face Ao Ao. A light shines on Hela's arm, showing that the treatment was effective and her arm is regenerating. He gently touches Hela's forehead and wishes her a good sleep. He then closes his eyes and rests beside her. And that is it for today, guys. Hope you liked the story, and if you want more of this, don't forget to like the video and subscribe so you don't miss any new videos that I post. See you next time. Kisses.